Good morning. Good morning. Good morning, my beautiful people. How are you? I hope everyone is doing great. Just giving people a few minutes to pop on with me. Hey, you boss lady. How are you? Good morning, Christina. How are you, beautiful? Hey, Facebook family, YouTube family. I got my Instagram folks over here. How are you? How is everyone doing this beautiful day? A day that we've never seen and will never see again. So make the most of it, right? Hi. I'm going to give people just a few minutes to join us. And I'm trying to make sure this tripod doesn't keep sliding. Y'all know how my tripod is. I'm going to see if I put this stapler in front of it. I got something already stopping it from one end. So let's see if we can get it to be still and act right. Act like it got some sense. Yeah, that part. Yes, you did, Christina. I know you always say, I never get to them. So while we are waiting for folks to pop on, to join us, do me a huge favor. I'm going to do exactly the same thing. I'm going to share out. If you will share with your friends on Instagram, on Facebook, on YouTube. Hey, y'all know how I feel about this. There are always gems that are dropped. And the more that we can share, the more people that I am able to connect with and help on their healing journey, the more people you don't have to repeat yourself to. All right. So we're just going to invite a few people to join us. Hey, a small party is absolutely fine. And I am good with that because I'm still going to come with the same power. If you guys are on Facebook or YouTube, please excuse me. I am hitting the send button over here on my Instagram to invite a few people. And also, do me another favor. Tell me how the weather is in your area. Hey, Stacy. Thank you. How is the weather in your area? Y'all, let me tell you, my husband and I were looking out the back door the other day. I was actually in the kitchen, and I noticed that the leaves on the tree are already yellowing. Y'all, it is just August 3rd. And also what the temperature has been crazy. In fact, I actually have on a 3/4 length sleeve today because it's been a little bit chilly. It was in the 60s last night here in Maryland. And I'm like, what? What is going on? Yes, it is crazy. Happy bonus day to you as well, Stacy. Thank you again for joining me. Flourish in Phoenix says it is raining there. It's very overcast here. Yes, Christina's in New York, in the area, and she says that it is feeling like fall there. And I have another friend who lives in New York also, Lizette, and she said that it has not felt like summer there where she's at, except maybe a few days. So, y'all, if climate change ain't real, all I'm saying, folks need to listen up. So before we get into it, y'all know we got to do our prayer. I have my little prayer book, and I'm excited about today's prayer. I actually peeped at it last night. And after we do our prayer, I will introduce myself because everybody don't know who I am, right? Right. Today's prayer is from Romans chapter 8, verses 25. And y'all know what this prayer is. It says, if we hope for what we do not see, if we hope for what we do not see, we wait for it with patience. Woo, y'all. Faithful one, The mark of your loyal love is all over my life. I could not deny that your power has moved in and through me in many ways. You speak and the lights come on. You move and my heart feels as if it could fly. In the mundane, I see you. I see you in the way the flowers bloom in the spring, growing swiftly after the rains. I see you in the way children readily forgive, just wanting peace and joy of a restored relationship. As I count the ways I've seen your faithful character at work in my life, the answered prayers and desires, I can't help but be filled with courage as I look toward the future. My hope is in what I cannot see, yet my faith is in the one hope, knowing that your timing is perfect. Thank you that I don't need to make this happen. I rest in your unfailing love that carries me through. Ooh, y'all, that was a word. I am so blessed by this prayer today. But let me go deeper. Heavenly Father, Jehovah, we come before you in your precious Son's name, Jesus Christ. And Lord, we just say thank you, thank you, thank you, and thank you for this word that you've given us, reminding us that we ain't got to make it happen. We just got to show up in belief and believing and remembering whose we are and who's in us and who runs this world. Yes. Thank you so much, Lord. Thank you for the day that we've never seen and will never see again. I thank you for putting our name on the Arise list. I thank you for the people that you touched to be with me on Facebook, Instagram, and on YouTube, Lord. And I thank you for the people who are going to look at the replay later, Lord. Lord, as we go about this day, help us to remember to make this day as positive, as productive as possible as we would like, because we will not get a do-over. This is it. Let's live in the present. But as we're going about the day doing all the things, let's remember to keep it joyful. Let's remember to be happy. Let's remember to make it fun, Lord. Ask all these things in your Son's name, Jesus Christ. Amen. All right, Lord. Yes. Y'all, did y'all feel that prayer like I did? Ooh, y'all. Over in Central Florida, over on Facebook, Stacy says that it is a little overcast. I was just in South Florida. So yeah, I hope it picks up. Thank you, Claudia. Ashe, yes. The question on today's prayer is, what do you do when your patience is running thin? Y'all take time to answer that question in your own time. But what do you do when your patience is running thin? Think about it. Thinking about not only what you do, but is that what you're doing serving you, or is it hindering you? If it's serving you, keep doing what you're doing. If it's hindering you, I suggest you make some changes. Think about what you can do that would serve you. But not only that, ask yourself why you are doing something that's not serving you. But that's another story for another day. For those of you guys who don't know me, I'm Coach Tracey. Hi, thanks for joining me. I am a trauma healing and mindset mastery coach for my high achieving Black women. And let me explain what I mean by high achieving. I mean that Black sister who is constantly on the quest to better herself, whether it's in education, whether it's being a better wife, whether it's being a better parent, whether it's being a better student, whether it's simply and only what we need to really focus on is just being a better person, being our highest self. That's who I work with. I help them to manage this, connect with this, so that they show up in the world as a whole person, healing, excited about life. Yes. Hey, Alicia, thank you for joining me. Pamela, hey, beautiful. You felt that prayer? OMG, that prayer was on. That was right on time, wasn't it? Y'all, today's sponsor, let me tell you about today's sponsor. This is a Black-owned company called Tea with Tune, out of Maryland. It's just right around the corner from me, guys. Let me type it in here. Tea with Tune. If you guys have had their teas, drop it in the comments and let me know that you've had their teas. I want you guys to really enjoy the tea. Today I have their breath of life, their immune support tea. And can we not say an amen on that? Because these COVID cases, these COVID streets getting crazier and crazier, right? I'm so excited to taste the tea. It is brewing and steeping right now. I am actually pinning tea with tunes in my Instagram, so you guys can be able to tap into them. And I'm gonna pin it. Support them, support them, support them, support them. Did it pin? Y'all, I don't know what's going on Instagram, but here's the tea. It is loose leaf. Look at the packaging. I absolutely love it. Here is the tea steeping, y'all. But let me just show y'all this. Y'all know I'm drinking out of my growing, thriving, flourishing mug. If you have not got your mug, go to my website and purchase your own mug so that you can always be reminded what you need to be doing every day. And I hate to say the word need, but what I would love for you all to be doing, which is growing, thriving, and flourishing every day. But she also provided me with this beautiful tea strainer. And y'all, if you look at it, it is a leaf. Can you see the leaf? Oh my God, it's so good. But what I love about this particular tea strainer, and this is something that has always irked me about tea strainers, is that where was I going to lay it once I'm done? So once it's done steeping, all I have to do is let it sit in its little container, the holder, so that the tea isn't spilling everywhere. Y'all, I love this. I love this. All right. Since we got that, before I finish, let me tell you about her teas, or I think it's a woman. I'm still waiting for them to, thank you, Tanya. I'm glad you love your tea. Isn't it pretty? I think it comes in a couple of colors also, but I love the orange. Yeah, it really looks good on my complexion. So her tea, and I'm saying she, I think it's a woman. If I'm wrong, I apologize. But they started making teas after they were sampling all these other teas, and they weren't cutting the mustard. They needed something with a little bit more power. The strainer came from Tea with Tune. I just put it in the comments. I tried to pin it. Instagram is tripping over here. But she decided to make her own teas and tea mixes to support the health benefits and provide the medicinal properties that she was looking for. I absolutely love that. The other great thing about this company, as with most of the companies that I that are sponsoring Tea Talks with Coach Tracey, they are environmentally conscious also, because they are using loose leaf teas, which means that for every bag that we're not using, we're actually saving the earth. So I'm so excited about that. Y'all know I have to include my Trader Joe's raw honey and my ginger honey crystals. So I'm going to be sipping on this, but let's get into this. Flourish with Phoenix. I love that. I love that. I think that is so creative. One of the best strainers that I actually have. I'm going to try to pin this comment one more time. But Tea with Tune, TEAWITHTUNE.com. And you can also find them on Facebook and Instagram with the same handle. Oh my God. Okay, this one has soursop leaves, echinacea angustifolia, blackberry leaves, hyssop, lemongrass. That's where I was tasting the citrusy, the lemon balm, orange peels, and also strawberry leaves. Oh, and this is 100% organic. Loving this. So go get you some. So let's get into today's Tea Talks with Coach Tracey. Honey. Oh, Stacey, please do. Definitely hit me up in my DM. So we're talking about workplace and corporate trauma and how it shows up, what it looks like. Y'all, I remember the first time that I was ever presented with workplace trauma. At the time, I didn't realize it was trauma. I was accused. Couldn't have been. Jasmine Shell was about 2 or 3 years old. So that was in the 80s, 83. So that was late 80s. And I was accused of giving my then boyfriend, soon to be husband, my daughter's father, a Wendy's smoothie, a Frosty. That's what it was called. Y'all, there is something about, I don't like liars. I don't like thieves. I don't. I'm sure nobody does, but that just really gets a, but to be accused of something like that. And I am working my butt off. Literally at that time, I was riding a bike to work or walking to work or catching a bus, whichever was available to me based on the money in my account. Okay. That's how it was rolling in. Right. So to be accused, and I am doing everything that I can to get to work, was very, very traumatizing for me. I was hot. As a matter of fact, and if you read the comments, I still can feel the sensations in my body of being accused. Here's what made it problematic. The person that was accused me was a cisgender white gay male. That says it all in and of itself right there. Okay, y'all over on Instagram, I see what's happening. Yeah, I apologize. The tripod is moving. Fast forward another 10 or maybe not even 10 years, probably another, 6 or 7 years forward. I was working in corporate America, and I was actually bullied at work by a coworker, and it did not go well for her because I scared the heebie bejeebies out of her. I was much smaller than I am now, and I was less tamed than I am now. So one day she got the brunt of bullying me. I punched the file cabinets, and if my girlfriend Willie Jean Ramsey is on Facebook, I believe she was working there when I did that. And let me tell you, this was a tall, white, cisgender woman who was probably every bit of 6 feet plus and 200 something pounds. She didn't know what to do with this little black woman. Okay. She got the Hammond Browns in his own, and I never had to worry about it, but the damage was done. I stopped trusting. I started showing up very aggressive in ways, but it was because of the trauma. So workplace and corporate trauma can be very insidious, but it can also be very, very in your face. For those of you guys who have actually endured workplace or corporate trauma, drop it in the comments and tell me about what you have endured. And while we're doing that, I want to talk about why we have workplace and corporate trauma. Hey, Shoni. Yeah, I was like, your girl don't play. Okay, catch me on the wrong day now, and I might punch a file cabinet too. But I'm a little bit more put together, if you will. I've got a handle on how I show up and how I want to show up. So and it's authentic to me, right? So anyway, workplace and corporate trauma is so deeply rooted in white toxicity. Other people call it white supremacy. I call it white toxicity. It's deeply rooted in that, in the way we are, quote unquote, socially conditioned with the various manuals the world has for us. And not only the manuals from the world, but even the manuals that our parents have for us, because they have been conditioned by society and what we should do and what they think will work best for us to not thrive, but simply survive in this world. And that's the whole problem, is that with white toxicity, capitalism, and also patriarchal ideas, the intent is not for the quote unquote the minority, black, brown, indigenous, people of color, and other people who are not white. It's not the intent is not for them to thrive. Okay, the intent is for us to grow, maybe, and at best survive. So when we think about why workplace and corporate trauma is so deeply rooted in these three things, then we can understand why. So let me give you some examples of that white tie. I don't do that white, because there's no such thing as supremacy in any of us. Okay, the only supreme being is him above. So I'm looking at Instagram. I'm go hit some comments. Me personally have had the privilege of not experiencing. That is so beautiful. Shoni says, she says her husband goes through that, being the only Black male in his position. I'd love to know what he is going through. Tell me a little bit about that in the comments, what he is enduring, because that is what is happening. Christina on Instagram says, sexual, physical, and verbal, just hostile work environment, discrimination. Claudia said, yes, you said that, white toxicity. Yes. Shoni says, yeah, my parents don't use conditioner. They just shampoo. I am aloe lover who is tan, and she says, losing my identity in a job that didn't fulfill me. And let's talk about why all of these things are happening. First and foremost, when we talk about white toxicity, the white toxicity culture, white supremacy culture, first of all, you can look it up. Let me give you the names of the persons that Tima Okun and Kenneth Jones, they created a list of, I think it's probably 10, 12 things that identify the white toxicity culture. They call it white supremacy culture. I call it white toxicity culture. And first and foremost, it is it's damaging to people of color because there are norms and standards that are, again, created to support their flourishing, their thriving, but to minimize the ability for others to flourish and thrive. Okay, so let's talk about a few of them. Perfectionism. How many of us have dealt with perfectionism? Y'all, I don't consider myself a perfectionism, but I do like things to be the way I want them. I do like to be very detail oriented. But now when I think about it, the reason why I am so detail oriented and hate to make a mistake is because I have been beat up one side and down the other in the workplace when there was an error. Because when there's an error in the workplace, the first thing they're talking about is what is lost? Money. Not how much time, not how much of your time, how much you put into it, how hard you work. Even though there was an error, the first thing that it goes to is the capitalism part of it. How much money have we lost because of this? They do not identify and start and push on and put on you that appreciate what you've done. There's no appreciation in what you've done. It's always breaking it down and making you feel guilty, and I'm not going to say making you feel guilty, because how we think about something is why we feel guilt or why we feel shame. But doing things, their goal is to attempt to make you feel guilty, to attempt to make you feel shame. And if you haven't learned how to manage your thoughts about when these things happen, you will have the guilt and the shame associated with it. So that's one thing. The other thing is with perfectionism, it's almost like it's a personal assault on you as a person. No, it's not almost like it is. It is a personal assault on you as a person. And Stacey on Facebook says, I'm definitely a perfectionist. Thank you for everyone who has joined me. So when you are a perfectionist, the mistakes are personal. So if they are mistakes and they make it personal about you, that's when the shame starts to come up. Because if you remember last week, I think it was last week, we talked about shame. Shame is how you feel and think about yourself. It's an internal thing. So when you are being beat up on because you made a mistake and your value isn't appreciated, the work that you did isn't appreciated, you start to internalize that and become shameful. So that's one way. And I have my notes, guys. So another way is, have you guys ever been where in something, and I am one who has done this, and sometimes in my emails or with my clients, I've said time is of the essence. So everything is urgent. There's always a sense of urgency. There's no slow down, no ease, no flow with it. And why is that? Have you ever sat down to think about why is there always a sense of urgency at work? Well, we can take it back to capitalism, because the more that we can do in less time, the more money can be made, right? So it deeply rooted into capitalism from that perspective. The other side of it is that when things are so urgent, how are you able to have a inclusion? Because what typically happens when things are so urgent, people will typically tend to go to the people they think can make the magic, if you will, happen. So there's no ability to create allies, there's no inclusiveness, there's no opportunity to discuss ideas, there's no ideas to discuss potential ways that something can be accomplished. And that leads me into another thing. There's no room for both and there's always either or. And there's also this thing, there's a right way and a wrong way to do things. So there's no opportunity to tap into creativity, because things have to be done the way it's always been done, because it's comfortable and people don't have to move out of their comfort zone. So when you're dealing with those things, especially when you are a person of color, a Black woman, or a person of color, or indigenous person, that goes against everything that we are accustomed to, especially in cultures where slowing down to speed up is the norm. If that is how you've been raised, then this sense of urgency throws you off, and also really engages your sympathetic nervous system. How? Well, when there's a sense of urgency and your way of doing things is typically rooted in ease and flow and peacefulness and inclusiveness and allies and talking and support and so forth. When this sense of urgency comes along, your body starts to create this fight or flight and maybe even freeze or fawn reaction. So you start getting the norepinephrine, the cortisol starts firing up, your adrenaline starts firing up, your hands might get sweaty, your heart rate might actually raise, all these things, because this is so foreign to you that it triggers a response in you, because now you're in a place where, you know what, I have no idea what to do. I need to survive. So your lower brain has started like, what? I got to survive. Something is not right. We got to do something here. Hey, dude, girlfriend. Y'all, you don't see this happening? That's what our brain is doing. Okay. So that's how we become traumatized. And that's just a couple of ways. But another thing is, y'all ever heard this? If it's not in writing, it didn't happen. Y'all, I learned that the hard way working in corporate America. I worked at Aetna in a couple of different areas. I went from workers' comp. I handled all their workers' comp to surety, commercial surety, to the health insurance or health care for corporations, right? Honey, I can't remember where I made the mistake, but I obviously made a mistake and I didn't have it in writing. Someone said something, I didn't put it in writing, I didn't send them an email or whatever it was. Well, because it wasn't in writing, my word was not good enough. My word was not good enough. Y'all remember back in the day when a person's word was their bond? Honey, not today, not in corporate America, not in the workplace. You have to have it in writing. Even when we talk, I have taught my children this, and it's so funny. I always tell my children to get everything in writing. If you are a Black person, and if you can remember this, and I'm 54 years young, so I have no problem telling my age, but I remember, and I still do this to this day, my mother taught me that anytime I go into a store, I'd better leave with a bag and a receipt. Why is that? Well, because if you were a Black person and you didn't have that worship of the written word, that written word was your receipt, and the bag was the proof that you didn't steal it. So that receipt in that bag could have saved your life. Worship of the written word. Okay. But also, let's take it back to the workplace. Here's the other side. When you think of cultures, and even in some of our culture and some of the people, we think about the education level. If you're a highly skilled person, if you are very good at writing, if you're very good at communicating in writing, then this works very well for you, and you're very, very valued in the in the organization, right? But what about those cultures where written communication was not their normal way of doing things, and still is not? Here's the thing. In our culture, as African Americans, and even as our indigenous people, we were storytellers, meaning we used our voice. We spoke it. We didn't necessarily write it. You ever ask your grandmother for a recipe? You ever seen a recipe written out? Rarely did we see recipes written out. Excuse me. Let me tell you, I'm drinking this tea and there's a little kick in it. I need to look and see where that kick is coming from. But rarely do we see things written out because we were storytellers. So when you go in the kitchen with your grandmother or your auntie or mama, she ain't got no recipe written out. It comes from up here because it came down that way through the generations. So you can see how this can be problematic in the workplace or in corporate America. The other thing, and we kind of talked on this, and I'm not going to go over many more because there are so many more, is quantity over quality. Y'all feeling me? Let me know how you guys are feeling about this content so far in the comments. Anybody dealt with the worship of the written word? I know Stacey says if it's not written, it does not exist and did not happen. So true. So true. That's how it is, unfortunately. It's all a paper trail now. All right. Quantity over quality. And this is deeply rooted in the capitalism part again. Again, that sense of urgency, this kind of folds into that, where, you know what, forget whether or not it's good, and we had this thing made in the USA as if, our quality over here in the USA was better than other countries, and even some of our third world countries where, there is time invested in their craft. There's a sense of pride in their workmanship. Over here, capitalism has reared its ugly head for so long. It's all about how many Benjamins can we make within this certain amount of times? Because if we think about it, we have the 8-hour work week, 8-hour work day, and 40-hour work week based on the production, the equipment to produce. From I think it was I can't remember when it was created, but that is why we have a 40-hour work week, because it was based on the time that it took to produce, how the machines worked, not about us. It was about how much can our machines produce and how long do we need to have these people working these machines so we can get that cheddar, cha-ching. That's what it was about, okay? Pamela on Facebook says, this resonates. I work in corporate and continually have to cover myself. Thankfully, I communicate well. That has saved me. Still, I work circles around others. And Stacey says, today lies are written and upheld as true. Girl, honey, you need to put that on a t-shirt. That is so true that lies are written and upheld as truth. Honey. I had to get a sip of tea on that. Had to get a sip of tea. And let's talk about the last thing, and this is paternalism. When we look in corporate America, or even workplace, and I say workplace because I'm talking about retail, I'm talking about the food industry, that may not necessarily be considered corporate America, right? Exactly, Stacey. She says quality over quantity is no more because of the capitalism and worship of the money. Exactly. It says the love of money is the root of all evil. When we think about the love of money from a capitalistic perspective, Now we understand why there is so much evil in the world, okay? Because we will put money before anything and everyone in most cases when we live in a capitalistic world, right? But the paternalistic, or, and I'm going to say the patriarchal ideals that show up in the corporate workplace are those where the decisions are 99%. Well, I'm not even going to say 99%. I'm going to say when you look at the C-suite, when you look at leadership, what do you see? You usually see a cisgender white male, right? So the power structure is still in that from white toxicity and lots of time toxic masculinity. And it's what I say or hit the road. How does that make sense? Right? It's supposed to be inclusive. It's supposed, your workforce is supposed to be your canvas for you to be able to tap into their diversity, to tap into their creativity, to tap into the things that make them unique so that they can bring those things into your company so that your company can be the best that it can be. But if all the decisions are top down versus bottom up, or inclusive of making the decisions, and we understand that some decisions need to be made from the top down. Heck, I wish the folks up in the Capitol would have done that. A year ago with COVID, and it would have been top down, and most people would have been like, "We need to wear the mask because the president also is doing that." But I digress. The other side of these patriarchal ideas that show up in the corporate workplace is that when you have that type of mentality in corporate America or in the workplace, there is no reaching out to others to tap into what they think. The rare company that does that, or is that company who is really going to be thriving. And it would be great to see that happen, but we don't see a lot of that happening. So that's just, we talked about the white toxicity. We talked about how perfectionism shows up, quantity over quality. We talked about the right and wrong, either or instead of both and. What else did we talk about? We talked about that sense of urgency. So this, it's very, 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 very prevalent. It's the reason why so many people are so stressed out, so ready to walk away from their jobs. It's the reason why so many people have walked away from their jobs as a result of working from home from COVID, because they were able to decompress, they were able to shake off, and in some ways they literally did shake off the trauma that had been trapped in their body. Because here's the thing, when that trauma from workplace trauma and corporate trauma is in your body, it's those little things which causes the complex trauma. So it's those micro times that keep building up that give you complex trauma. And so you go to work on pins and needles, you hand in your work, or you show your work, or you don't share your work with anyone because you don't want to be shamed. You don't want to be called out. You don't want to be put on the hot seat. You don't share, you don't give, because it's safer for you to protect yourself. And that's how the trauma is continues to go and move through your body. And that's why they say, and it is true, the body keeps score. So some people are walking around today with CTSD, and that's corporate traumatic stress disorder. It has not been put in the DSM. I don't think it's even called yet. But if it were to be, and I'm pretty sure that one day it will be, we would find that a lot of people are actually dealing with it. Many of us are dealing with it and don't even realize we're dealing with it now. And I want to say shout out to Jamal Coley. He wrote a book. He's a brother. He wrote a book called Corporate Trauma. Check him out on LinkedIn. I'll be actually on a podcast with him on Thursday. So we're going to talk a little bit more about workplace and corporate trauma. I will make sure I put that information in the stories, and maybe even make a post about it. Stacy says over on Facebook, money over humanity. And she said, rooted in deception, division, and ultimately destruction. OMG. That's exactly what it is. All of these things are totally rooted in that. So I'm going to go over to Instagram and check some comments because it wasn't strolling. Amy says, let me go back and see. Yes, the body does, Alicia Golden says. She says it does keep score. Let's see. I got to go back a little bit. Thanks, everyone, for joining me. Let me go back. Shoni says, I've dealt with perfectionism just because I like things in order. I don't mind making mistakes, though. I like to learn from them. Yeah, that's great. The problem is that in corporate and in the workplace, that is not what they see from a mistake. They see failure, mistakes as a failure. It almost becomes like a moral failure. There's no compassion and there's no grace. Amy says, I've been told I'm replaceable recently. What? Okay. I'm the top producer and also have the best quality of work every month. Only difference in my team is I'm the only woman. Men can't handle it. That part. They can't handle it because they have been raised to believe that women are supposed to be less than them, not be able to perform better than. But we have shown time and time again that women outperform men all the time. All the time. And it should not be a competition. In fact, it bothers me that they would be so bold to tell you that you are replaceable. We are all replaceable in some capacity. Let's just be real about that. But to be so bold to tell you that, and the reason why they were telling you that was to basically say, let me put you in your place. You stepped on my toes. You made me feel inadequate. When it's not about you made them feel inadequate. Their thoughts about them not being able to perform to your capacity made them feel inadequate. Had nothing to do with you. But of course, we will pass the blame because to sit in our thoughts and to accept the fact that we are the cause of our discomfort would be too much like the right thing. Christina says, I've been the only woman and woman of color. It's very hard. I hear you, sis. Yes. That's a double whammy. And the thing about that is that it's a double whammy, but for corporations, they get and I don't know if they still get these credits, but in the past, they used to get a credit for you being Black and being a woman. So they would get these tax write-offs, but treat you like crap. Amy says, I feel for you. Thank you for sharing your experience. It's not how it should be ever. It really shouldn't be. And this is one of the things that I help my clients to deal with, is how to manage their brain so that they can continuously regulate their nervous system and minimize how the complex microaggressions and they call them small t's. I don't like to call them small t's, but I respect why, because those snide comments, the looks, the body language, being told that you're replaceable, those things, once we learn how to manage our brain around those things, and then once we know where they are coming from and why they are coming in the way that they are towards us, and we will actually learn how to show up differently, and manage our own emotions and sensations and so forth. Tanny says, after quitting my job 8 years ago, I still have occasional nightmares. 8 years ago. If that is not proof that the body holds on to those memories and the body keeps score, that is proof in and of itself. And that's why it's so important to, one, get your body moving to release that trauma from your body. but more importantly, to tap into the mindset, to understand the thoughts behind it, so that you can understand why this is still happening. Because once you understand why it's still happening, and the thoughts that are actually causing it, because there is some subconscious stuff that's still happening up under there, then you can actually reframe it to some thoughts that are serving. And I'll give you an example. This has nothing to do with workplace, but I have a fear of death. And I have these sensations in my head when I go to sleep sometimes, and I wake up and I'm startled. Well, one of the things that when I was, for years, this has been going on. And one of the things I would always say to myself is that, oh my God, why does this happen to me? I'm scared, and whatever. And I told my husband about a week ago, that I was starting to reframe that thought, because death is going to happen, right? And for me to be continuously afraid of it, it's basically incited my body to hold on to those memories. And it's basically saying, okay, this is what she's afraid of. So every time it happens, this is how my sympathetic nervous system is going to jump into fight or flight, because that's exactly what happened. Because I freeze. Sometimes I fight, and sometimes I do flee. Ask my husband. But I've started to reframe it to say, this is a physiological effect in my body. It's nothing to be afraid of. And because I've reframed it, it doesn't mean that the incident doesn't happen. I don't have this moment that happens, but because of the way that I am choosing to think about it, it serves me better than to think of death and dying. So I hope that was helpful. Christina, talk about that, Tracey, the snide comments, the looks getting iced out, the vibe of hospital, and how now it makes you hyper aware. It's been 5 years. Guys, workplace and corporate trauma is very, 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 it's widespread. If you've never worked in the workplace or in corporate America, and you don't have some form of workplace or corporate trauma that you can discuss, I am so happy for her. I think Shoni said she doesn't have anything like that. And it doesn't necessarily have to come from the workplace or corporate trauma. It can even come from being an entrepreneur or being a business owner. Okay? That is trauma as well. When people disregard you, when people say smart alecky things, or they make a comment that is more like a put down versus a compliment, if you will. Okay. So guys, that is all that I have for you all today. I hope this has been amazing for you. I hope it tapped into some thoughts for you. I hope that it helped you to understand why you are showing up in the workplace as you are, how in ways that you can actually reframe sometimes to help move through those situations that may show up. If this is something that you are dealing with and it is causing you to lose sleep, it is causing you to be very anxious when you go into work, it's causing you to dread going into work. My last job, I used to cry getting dressed. I used to cry on the way to work. I would cry sitting in the car before I went into the job. I hated it. And it wasn't that the job was bad. The job wasn't. It was the owner of the insurance agency. He had no respect for women. And he had some morals and ethics that were less than what becoming. And it was just tough for me to work in there. So every day was traumatic for me, just going to work. So believe me, I have been there. If you need help with this, if you're going through something at work and you need some support, someone to hold space for you, please DM me. I'll be more than happy to connect with you and help you. I coach women on this all the time, not necessarily workplace and corporate trauma, but trauma in and of itself. So I would love to support you in that. DM me. On Instagram, Christina says, insidious, she was in law enforcement. Can you imagine being in law enforcement and dealing with that on an everyday basis, and your job is to go out and support other people? Nubian Planter says, I would get physically sick before going into work. Those are signs of trauma. Kristen, the wealth tea says, for me, my job became a drain when I stopped my grounding routines in the morning. It definitely takes a toll. Exactly. Ritual is so important. Not just managing your thought, but ritual. Ritual one, to get your vibes up, your energy high, so that you can go in. Because when your energy is high, it's like the devil and the demons cannot stand in the midst of praise. That's the same thing. When you take that high vibe to your job, that negativity, it cannot stand in the midst of your high vibes. Now, I'm not saying that is the end all be that's going to just make it all go away. No. But what it does do, it makes it possible for you to actually thrive even in a situation that is not necessarily the most supportive, because we have to do what we have to do for self, because they're definitely not going to do it for us. All right. All right, ladies and gents, thank you so much. And don't forget to support our tea sponsor this month, which is Tea with Tune. Y'all, I'm going to get me another cup. This is really, really good. Love it. Cannot wait. Oh, and before I go, I wanted to pull a couple cards for you guys. I got new card decks. I have the Wild Oracle cards, Tosha Silver, and another set by Tosha or Tasha. Whoops. This must be the card. Divine Abundance. I shuffled these cards last night. And I'm just going to go ahead and shuffle. I feel like I need to shuffle them again. I'm going to be led by the spirit. And I'm just going to pull a couple of cards for you guys. Y'all know I love doing the intuitive readings. Let me tell you what I love about these two card decks. First, they are deeply rooted in connecting with God. Deeply rooted in connecting with God. And that is why I absolutely love these cards. Living Life Travels on Instagram says, for me with my business, I have to realize that everyone is not going to have the same vision I have. Absolutely. And that's quite all right, but they do need to respect it. As long as they can respect your vision, that is quite all right. All right. Oh, give me a word for the people. All right. So this one's Wild Offerings Oracle. This one says, health. Allow me, divine, to be tender and accepting of my body, no matter what ailments I may have. May I always know it's doing the best that it can. Help me be a loving ally and friend to this sacred form. I don't know who needs to hear this. Probably a little bit of me, because I have last week I stayed up almost 24 hours, and last night I stayed up till about 2, getting some work done. And one of the things that I have been saying to myself, and I say it all the time, and I have gotten much, much better, is that I need to make sure that I treat my body as the temple that it is. And this is speaking directly to me. It may be speaking to you all, but this is most definitely speaking to me. I love the artwork on these cards and the quality of the cards. So this is one I am going to hold for myself. And this card, I'm gonna hold this card out because it fell out the deck. But this one is also a really nice one. I'm gonna go ahead and shuffle it as well. So on Instagram, Facebook, who did that card speak to? And sometimes it's not so much about the health. It's about loving our body, loving where we are in this stage of our lives. Sometimes it's simply accepting that our body does have limitations and loving it and giving it grace and compassion regardless of that. Okay, just something to think about. All right. Okay, let's see. Where am I drawn to pull a card? I think I'm gonna pull this one. Ooh, y'all. Loving these two cards. The card that's fell out of it was definitely needed for someone. And I would say it probably is for me. I'm going to go through the one that fell. This is the surrender card. And it says, sometimes learning to surrender can feel as if you're dying. Who you telling? The ego learns what's hardest, to stop trying to control the whole universe. Y'all know I don't remember the scriptures. I remember scriptures, but I don't remember where they are in the Bible. But one of the things that I was just telling someone was to stop trying to do things in your own power. Surrender. Surrender. Thank you, Q. Thank you, beautiful. Stop trying to do things in your own power. Surrendering is so hard because we have been taught by society that we can be self-made, that we can pull ourselves up by the bootstraps, that we can do everything and anything if we put our mind to it. And to be quite honest, we can do everything and anything if we put our mind to it, only if it's in God's will and only if the universe conspires to help us make it happen. So sometimes we just need to sit back, relax, go with the flow. And I know that's easier said than done. And just let things happen as they are. Surrender. When you feel like you are trying to make something happen, you're not surrendering. When you feel like you're trying to do something and you're trying to get the outcome that you want, you're not surrendering. When you're surrendering, there is no push and pull. When you're surrendering, you just let it be. Don't know who needed to hear that, but that was one. And the last card is courage. And I pulled it again from the Divine Abundance set. And it says, let me be open to courageously take the steps that are shown. I know I've got some business people. I've got some entrepreneurs. I've got some people who are in corporate America who are maybe considering that promotion. Maybe you're considering quitting. Maybe you're considering making your side hustle, your business, whatever it may be. A lot of times we don't take those steps that we need to take, even though God has tapped us on the shoulder. The Holy Spirit has tapped us on the shoulder. Intuition, our inner wisdom has said, that's which direction you want to go, but fear. Fear of the unknown, because you don't know where that step's going to take you. Fear of the unknown will keep you stuck. Be open to courageously taking the step that you've been shown. God is the creator of the universe. So the universe is giving you these steps. It is not to lead you astray. Now, I'm going to say this. Some steps that we take, they are hard. And they can even cause, because of the way we're thinking about it, those steps that we take, we will actually start to have some doubt. We may have some anxiety. We may be stressed because we don't see things happening in the way that we want it to, or the way we thought it would, because we all have these ideas and dreams of how we're going to see things show up for us, right? That doesn't mean that was the wrong step. It simply means that you need to surrender. It simply means that you need to lean in instead of trying to push forward or push backwards or be resistant. Q says, trust God and do good is my motto. I love that motto. Let's see. Living life travels. Yes, definitely for me. I had to surrender to God. My body was draining. Yes. Well, ladies and gentlemen, thank you so much for your time today. I appreciate you guys. I love you guys. I always enjoy my tea talks with you guys. One, because I get so much out of it, having the dialogue with you guys, and I love the interactiveness and the communication and back and forth. So thank you, thank you, thank you for showing up. Thank you for sharing. And if you will, make sure you turn on your notifications, whether you're on Facebook, Instagram, or YouTube, so that next week and the week afterwards, we will be able to hang out at 10 a.m. Eastern time to get some good information and change our mindset, up level our mindset, and so forth. Last but not least, don't forget, if you are having any trouble, any challenges, please don't hesitate to DM me. If you'd like to discuss coaching with me, there's a link at my bio where you can schedule your discovery session, and we will make it happen. All right. And before I go, this month up until the 15th, there is a special for new clients. So if you are or have been contemplating working with me, schedule your discovery session and we will discuss the special for new clients. That ends on the 15th, however. All right. Love you guys. I will see you guys next week. But until then, please continue to plant those seeds that are going to propel you forward so that you can continue to grow, thrive, and flourish and become the woman of God that He has predestined you to be. He is simply waiting on you to show up so He can open the doors of abundance and prosperity for you. Love you. Take care. Over here on Facebook, I'm going to type in the information and then I am out of here. Thank you guys for hanging out with me and sharing your information with StreamYard. I really appreciate it. See if this comment's going to go through. Talk to you later. Mwah.